Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Friday, everybody. Today we are going to take a look once again at Venus's upcoming conjunction to Uranus in the sign of Taurus. This is happening over the weekend, and so we're going to take a look at this archetypal combination. And as I like to say, we're going to turn the jewel. I've got a list of 10 things to watch for, 10 themes that I think speak to Venus-Uranus. By the way, when I do these, I look back over previous talks that I've given on Venus and Uranus, and I try to come up with things I haven't said before. So if you ever wanted to go back and listen to previous talks on Venus Uranus, there's a bunch in my archives, and you could always listen to, 3 other Venus Uranus talks and hear me say slightly different things about it. It's in this way, by means of hearing astrologers, not just myself, but probably a handful of astrologers talk about an archetypal combination over and over and over again, that you start to, it's as though you're meditating on a mandala. And the mandala has the jewel at the center, and that jewel is Venus Uranus. But you have to spend time sort of spacing out and getting lost in different facets of this mandala or tapestry. And as you do so, you start to take in the essence at a very deep level. So I say that because every time that I talk about these combinations, they are a little bit different. Sometimes I'll say things that are familiar, but most of the time I'm trying to say it in a slightly different way, so that we can deepen our understanding of this. And of course, it helps if you watch for the appearance of Venus Uranus in your own life. That's the ultimate teacher, because when you feel it experientially, when you notice it experientially, that's when it really starts to become a part of your body's sort of astrological, instinctual intelligence. It's like each one of us, as you study astrology, starts to know the transits because you've lived them. And that is way more important than book knowledge. At the same time, you need that kind of reflection. You need talks and study from a sort of philosophical point of view, so that it helps you to refine and sort of refresh your ability to perceive the actual archetypal combinations in life, in yourself and in others, if you read charts for people and so forth. So we are going to take a look at Venus Uranus today. I've also done an I Ching reading for Venus Uranus. That should give us some insight as well. So we're going to start with the I Ching reading and then go through a list of 10 things to watch for. Before we do that, don't forget to like and subscribe. Share your comments today. That helps the algorithm pick things up a little bit more and helps the channel get to people who might find it interesting. Transcripts of my daily talks can always be found on my website. And don't forget, this weekend, the new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, starts. You can find all that you need to know about the program on my website, nightlightastrology.com. Go to the courses page, click on the first year course. Don't forget that year 2 and my horary classes also start this weekend. If you have a background in traditional astrology, you are more than welcome to sign up for the horary class. Because I like students to go through my year 1 program before taking my year 2, about 99% of the time, we make people take year 1 first. But if you have a background in traditional astrology and you're looking for a horary class, then check that out. That begins this weekend as well. But otherwise, under the courses page, go to the first year program, scroll down. This is a 1-year class in ancient Hellenistic astrology. You can move at your own pace. You can attend the live webinars, or you can download the recordings of the webinars from the class website, which is something you have perpetual access to. You can download everything from, and you always have like a username and ID or a login or whatever that allows you to sign in, and that'll be there perpetually. So you have a 1-year program, and you can learn what some of my alumni have said about it recently. If you go back and watch my interview with Dana the Self-Help Witch on Wednesday, talking about the path of professional astrology, she talks about the program a little bit as well. The course is 30 webinars on the year. They happen from 12 to about 2:30 p.m. Eastern time every Sunday. Can't watch it live, that's fine. They're all recorded and kept for you with transcripts of the Q&A and everything. Transcripts of all the talks are available too. Then we have 12 guest lectures that come in throughout the year. We have interactive group forum discussions that are actually staffed by several tutors that answer all of your questions always within 24 hours. You can email me throughout the year with any questions you have about what you're learning. We also have breakout study sessions where in between major units, if you're like, I'm having trouble with this, you can come to a tutoring session and get extra help. So it's really a program that's there for you to go as deeply as you want to with it. At the bottom, you'll find payment options. The early bird payment is only available through tomorrow. That is Saturday. So you have to take advantage of it today or tomorrow to get that $500 off. Otherwise, you can stretch it out over a year. Or we do still have a few need-based tuition sort of assistance packages available for people. So if you need some help to take the program, you have a strong intention, you're like, I want to take this class, I want to study, astrology, but I have a fixed budget, and so I need some help. Tell us your situation. Click on the Apply Now button. We're glad to help people out to try to make it possible. In fact, people don't just use it as a discount if you can afford it. But if you're struggling and you need us to help you work something out, you're a single parent, you're only working part-time, COVID, has thrown life off the rails for a lot of people. So we're very happy to work with people. All right, well, today we are looking at Venus's upcoming conjunction with Uranus, which is happening over the weekend in the sign of Taurus, right around some of the degrees that the recent eclipse in Taurus happened in. Yesterday, I took a look at the 12 whole sign house horoscopes for the sign of Taurus, specifically to say, look, wherever that whole sign house of Taurus is located in your birth chart, that's where the action is. It has been for a while now, and it continues to be as Venus is going through this conjunction with Uranus. So let's take a look at the real-time clock and kind of refresh on the perfection range of this transit. So here is the real-time clock, and let's go ahead and put it here so we can see the, oops, you know what? I'm in Hellenistic mode, so let me put in the outers. All right, so here we go. So we have Venus and Uranus coming together, and we're going to advance this by a day from Friday to Saturday. So you can see Venus in the evening on Saturday coming through the conjunction to Uranus in Taurus. Now we get about a 3-degree range. So if we push it forward, it's going to start separating by, roughly Tuesday. So you could be experiencing this anywhere from yesterday all the way through about Tuesday of next week as a broad range within which things will likely manifest. But watch especially for Saturday into Sunday. That's when things are really cooking. Now, the other thing that's happening concurrently over the weekend is we also have Mercury, also in the sign of Taurus, moving through a trine to Pluto. Now, that's really today, Friday, that's happening. And I talked about that combination at the beginning of this week. So if you go back to Monday's video, you'll hear me talk about Mercury, Pluto, and Venus-Uranus at the same time. I'm going to speak more today about Venus and Uranus because that's really where the action's at over the weekend. Okay, so now that we've taken a look at the real-time clock, first the I Ching. So the I Ching is an ancient Chinese oracle, and it consists of 64 six-lined figures, sometimes referred to as hexagrams. And each of the hexagrams shows an interaction between yin or yang lines. The yin lines are broken. They're like two little dots, and the yang lines are solid, like a solid line. And the hexagrams are comprised of interactions between yin and yang throughout 64 sort of archetypal stages of life that move in circles and cycles. The study of these lines and the relationship of one line to another line within a hexagram, or one hexagram to another hexagram within the 64, is sort of, very basically speaking, what constitutes the study of the I Ching. When we pull or throw the I Ching, we are going to be asking a question, as in any form of divination, and then receiving a hexagram or two with changing lines, all of which address the nature of the situation with some core teachings. Often, for years now, in the way that I have prepared curriculum, whether you guys know it or not, I often throw the I Ching before I prepare my talk for the day. And then sometimes I'll actually exclusively show you sort of what the reading is doing in terms of helping me fill in the blanks or help me to focus on a certain dimension of any given astrological transit. So here is what we're looking at with today's reading. I asked the I Ching, what would it help people to know about Venus's conjunction to Uranus? Almost like help us get to the archetypal core of this, or give us turn the jewel for us in some ways and help us understand. So the first hexagram that came back was hexagram number 46, which is sometimes translated as pushing upward. Now, this hexagram, I'm going to be focusing on a very basic aspect of this particular hexagram because of the line that's changing. So hexagram 46 means pushing upward, as in something slowly but surely developing and moving upward toward the light, like a plant upward toward the sun. So you can imagine that kind of, that hexagram speaks very nicely to Venus and Uranus. Prometheus was the light bringer, the bringer of light / fire and heat. And Prometheus, often associated with Uranus, is a figure of inspiration, liberation, freedom, progress, hope, defiance, rebellion, especially when it comes to asserting our will into the world and sort of shaping the world by means of our creative power. And also when it comes to the bringing of illumination. So Uranus is associated with awakening, very Promethean. So you have this image of something moving upward. Now, of course, there's an Icarus-like dimension to the Promethean story as well, like the Icarus story, flying too close to the sun, burning the wings off, falling down. There's always something about Uranus that can tempt us to fly too high, to go too close to the sun, or to overestimate with a kind of hubris that the gods don't like, our own human ability to fly so high. So this hexagram, interestingly, is a lot of it is about upward movement, aspiration, moving upward toward a goal, an ideal, a dream, a vision, a hope, freedom, etc. But there are some warnings in this hexagram that are very much like the story of Prometheus that have to do with coveting something high or overestimating our will and not respecting forces that are maybe bigger than ourselves, or not being careful enough when it comes to our own arrogance or hubris. So it's an interesting hexagram to receive. Line 6 of this hexagram was changing along with one other line, but we're going to focus on line 6. And this line sort of briefly summarized at the very top of the hexagram, and it represents someone pushing upward, but perhaps blindly. And that if you just keep aspiring upward and upward through blind impulse, desire, greed, etc., if you worship at the altar of the future and progress constantly, that can lead to mistakes. That can lead to falling. The reason for that is that when something reaches the top of a hexagram, it's sort of like the cup has filled up and then it's going to spill over. So that which is full is eventually emptied. There's a seasonal, cyclical kind of dynamic with this very Taoist like philosophy in the I Ching. So you have the tipping point at the 6th line, and it's like you've aspired so high, but if you keep moving upward blindly, you'll sort of tip over. So pushing upward blindly leads to mistakes. The second hexagram that comes about, almost like, the second hexagrams are tricky to read. They can be like, if you do the right thing, it'll lead to this, or if you do the wrong thing, it'll lead to this, or here's something to think about, and then juxtapose it with this idea. So second hexagrams there's not just one way to read them. But the second hexagram that emerges through the changing lines is Inexperience, number 4, and it has a lot to do with understanding that we don't know where we're going, that we don't know what we're doing, that we all have need of teachers, mentors, guides. From the time we're little, we need someone to hold our hand to help us learn how to walk. We can't do it all right away, all on our own. No matter what stage of life that we are in, that same beginner's mindset is applicable. That if we think we know what we need all of the time, we're in trouble, because there's many times in life where we know what we need, but there's also many times in life where we really don't know what we need. And if we're never capable of saying, you know what, I don't know what's best in this situation, so I'm going to kind of knock on the universe's door and be like, hey, what should I do, or what's best for me or for a situation or for other people around me? If we don't have that ability, in our repertoire, alongside of the brave, daring, aspirational qualities, we're in trouble, because we need both. They're like two different muscles. You need to be able to assert yourself, make creative choices, be a creator, a co-creator with the divine. But then there's also times where you need to go like, I just don't know what I'm doing, So Inexperience is that beginner's mindset. If you keep this beginner's mindset, then when you're moving upward really high, like you're getting really high up there, or you're moving for some lofty thing, you're so much less likely to fall or tumble or make a mistake or fall into some big error or pit or entanglement, because you keep a beginner's mindset. You keep the sense of, this is what I want. I'm really excited. I'm going for it. But also somehow I'm a beginner. And if there needs to be a modification or an adjustment, or if there's even a hard no, that's cool. I'm going to stay curious because I'm a beginner, always a beginner. We think that you're either one or the other. Like, I'm strong, I'm bold, I'm confident, and I know what I want. Well, if I'm not a beginner, I'm not someone who's going to sit and, be like always looking for some higher authority to tell me what to do. No, I'm sovereign, And it's like, no, you can do both. You can be confident, brave, bold. You can be creative. And you can also say, yeah, and I've also got no clue. I'm hoping this works out, but keeping that sort of Zen beginner's mindset. So how do we hold the tension of doing both at once? It's a far greater challenge for most of us than collapsing into total submissive, like, I can't do anything. I just have to have some higher power guiding me along, or being like, I am the higher power, So, can we not find a little more nuance within our psyches to hold the tension between these two things? I think it's one of the things that these two hexagrams are saying as they sit near each other in the reading that I did for Venus and Uranus. What do you desire? What do you want? What's asking you to press forward with ambition into the future, to make progress, to break free, to surpass limitations, to break old habits? That's the Venus-Uranus energy you're going to see sort of sparkling open in the next 4 to 5 days. If you can meet that energy, great. You should love it. Have fun with it. It's like, the energy reminds me of how my littlest girl, Summer, when I pull out like one of the sparkly colored popsicles, there's like orange and red, and she gets so excited. Oh my God, it's like she's going to pop. And we go outside, and we sit in the yard, and it's so nice. And it's like that. Like Venus Uranus is like a popsicle that you're riding to the moon or something in in a summer night with a perfect temperature. Especially in Taurus, in Venus's sign. So like enjoy that, enjoy that sparkly feeling, and that feeling of excitement and delight and enjoyment. At the same time, I have to watch, because there's a very good chance that we go outside into that scenery. Both girls have a cherry popsicle, or maybe one girl has an orange and the other one has a cherry. And before you know it, someone's trying to slit the other one's throat. like literally they're trying to kill each other because they're like, I wanted the orange. Well, I wanted the red. So it's like, we have to, like, my wife and I all like be like, this is good, this is fun, but there's a way, like, you have to be careful that it doesn't like tip over and then all of the joy spills onto the floor, and like there's bloodshed, and Lucifer has fallen from the skies, and suddenly the front yard is total carnage. Parents, you know what I'm talking about. So, and even if you've been a babysitter before, like, there's that peak, and then there's like, oh shit, it's gonna go right over the top. So, watch for that this weekend, and try to stay in the mindset that I'm like a child. And even though I feel like I've got a handle on this, and I'm riding the rocket ship, to the moon, that like I can crash. I am capable of crashing. So how do I keep that in mind? I think that's the essence of what I was getting from the I Ching reading today. On that note, I have 10 other Venus-Uranus themes that I'd like to look at today. So let's get into them. Number 1, when you are turning the Venus-Uranus jewel, and you're catching the light off from a certain angle, one of the things that you might see is what I call gold fever. This would be that you become so enamored by something, sort of like the popsicle, that you can get possessed by it. It can start off like feeling like a simple walk in the country with bare feet. I'm earthing, or whatever they call it. There's some kind of electromagnetic field that's pulsing up into my feet. And I'm experiencing well-being. Yeah, when I was a kid, that was just called being barefoot. Now there's like, take a retreat to this foreign part of the world so you can walk on bare earth. It's like, oh my God, really? Have we just forgotten how to be barefoot? But no, you get what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be cynical. You can literally start off with something as simple and sort of innocent as a barefoot walk in the country, and before you know it, you could be jumping naked off the top of a waterfall and, you know, falling in love with Sven, the wandering yodeler. You know, you can feel that you're like Venus Uranus is like has grabbed me today. But this is what I'm talking about. There's something where you can be captured by something that seems like, well, that's harmless joy, and before you know it, you're like, you know, it's like in Scooby-Doo, you know, when they get the whirly eyes because they've been transfixed by some ghost. That there is a weirdly possessive quality to this energy, and you can get seduced by it. So be careful. 2 would be idolatry. It's slightly different. It's when you put something or someone up on a pedestal. And the problem with that is, of course, then they're going to fall off the pedestal and you're going to think it's them. But at least half of the problem, I mean, maybe they are part of the problem, but at least half of the problem is the fact that you put them up there, you know, or I put them up there, or whatever. We all do this. So be careful of putting things on pedestals, oh, like that, and then they fall, and then you think they're the problem, and then they resent you because they're like, well, you're the one who projected all this stuff onto me, and I'm human, you know. So be careful of putting things up like that probably will, by their very nature, fall down. Remember the hexagram: what rises to the top falls down eventually. Number 3 would be the marriage of spirit and matter. If there is anything that is common in, you know, world religions, spiritual traditions, it is the distinction made between something base and something elevated. Sometimes it's talked about as spirit and matter. It's given many different names, right? But the idea here is that Venus and Uranus in Taurus, very earthy sign, a sign of the moon and a sign of Venus, are looking at, you know, the Promethean desire for something elevated and high, like something like fire. It's like light. It's very spirit-like. On the other hand, you have Venus, who's very earthy, more like matter, like the world of forms and the sensual world, the world of our senses. There is a potential in this transit for the marriage of those two things. Many world religions suffer from lack of imagination by saying, well, there's a higher world and then there's this base world. And the base world is what you're trying to get out of as you go to the higher world. Whereas once you get into the mystical dimension of most religious traditions, they will say, actually, the spiritual dimension is here within the material dimension. It's a matter of changing your consciousness. And anything in this earth is a reflection of something spiritual, and can be there can be this sacred alchemy where anything in the world can be spiritualized by meaning it's not just base, degrading, egotistical, self-interested, temporary crap, right? That there's something about this world that, with the right mindset, the right approach, the approach of gratitude, of beauty, of thankfulness, of appreciation, of love, can become divine. And everything is, in fact, that way. It's only in consciousness that we somehow turn it into like some kind of distortion. So that's a teaching that might be just sort of hanging around right now intellectually for a lot of people. Number 4 would be freedom of expression. Don't tell me how to act. Don't tell me how to look. You know, I'm going to do and be and dress and express in the way that feels authentic and real and free. Now, that might go too far in terms of like, I'm going to be provocative just to get a reaction, or I'm going to the opposite extreme, and it's not just about being myself, it's about proving a point or holding a grudge or trying to irritate people, or, you know, and I would be careful of that, but I would be aware of the need for free expression. Freedom or experimentation within relationships, number 5. It's sort of a similar idea. We're now talking about the need for freedom or experimentation within dating relationships or marriage. That could be, for example, a moment of breakthrough sexually, sexual healing, sexual fun, excitement, rekindling the spark, a moment of breakthrough in relationships that have been stuck or stagnant. It can also be about the need to be free from a relationship, as in I'd rather be experiencing myself as an individual than being coupled. Or, you know, usually Venus-Uranus transits are associated with oftentimes when people are maybe someone's coming out of the closet, or they're transitioning, or they might be trying polyamory, or anything that is about probably breaking out of a more like normal, sort of quote unquote normal, or like societally accepted or something. So anything that's on the margins, or that you could even experience prejudice, or people being mean or something, like, oh, you're different. So Venus Uranus says, yeah, I'm different, and I'm gonna like, I think, is it Pride Month? Is that May or is it June? Anyway, it's very, like, I feel like Venus Uranus is like Pride Month. It's about being open and free, and celebrating what we love. Just love what you love freely. That's very Venus and Uranus. Now, number 6 is well, just to speak to the freedom or experimentation within relationships. Sometimes you do see like adultery or affairs because someone is feeling bored or stuck. That's something to be a little bit careful of. Like, if it gets to that point, the breakthrough might be in going to counseling or speaking to someone, versus going and destroying a relationship because you just need to be free and you're not communicating. So that can always go in maybe that direction too, broadly speaking. Like, the need to break a boundary or a limit can be destructive, even with Venus Uranus. Going down to go up. This is interesting. We had a bird that is like nesting in a wreath on our front door, like a flower wreath, and it's made a little nest. And so I went out to let the dogs out the other night, and the bird, and I forgot, oh yeah, the bird's there, right? So I opened the door rather abruptly, and usually very careful with it because it's got eggs in there too. And the bird flew out of the nest and into the house. And it kept going up, like up. And my wife and I are like, okay, Ashley and I are like, okay, you got to go down, little mama. Like, you got to go down, and then you can go out and up, but you got to go down to go up and out. And the bird's instinct was to fly up. And man, it was a powerful lesson. I managed to capture the bird very gently. I came up behind it and sort of created a little tent grapple with a towel, and managed to it was totally fine, and it's out there now in its nest. So I was very happy that we managed to get mama bird out of the house without any harm. She didn't abandon the nest either, which is good. So, and I was reflecting on it as I was thinking about Venus and Uranus, and I was thinking, yeah, sometimes we need to get into the body, the world, the valley of the world, as a way or as a means of getting to the mountaintop. So regularly in spiritual life, we think about the mountain, we think about ascent, we think about evolving and enlightening up. This Venus-Uranus dynamic could say, listen, paradoxically, the way to go up is to go down, which means you have to do what is counterinstinctual. You have to somehow acknowledge or honor things that maybe you want to judge as beneath you or bad or something like that. For example, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that repression accomplishes nothing. And in some ways, we have to deal with what we are repressing if we are to alchemize those desires or feelings or needs in a meaningful way. But you can't do that if you don't even acknowledge some things, right? So the idea of the bird needing to go down to go out and up. And I just kept thinking about that. There's a deep spiritual teaching there for all of us, if that makes sense. All right, number 7 is aesthetic or creative revolution or inspiration. So I've got a new wardrobe. I've got a new creative idea. Anything that constitutes a breakthrough around creativity, design, beauty, anything feminine, anything that's eccentric or beautiful or fun or involves women or sisters or the sensual goddess stuff. Number 8, the intelligence of the body and senses, kind of like going down to go up. We live, in a sort of post-Kantian world where, many Western philosophers and religious traditions around the world have always said your senses are not reliable. Okay. Well, that's kind of stupid, in my opinion, to say that your senses are not reliable. I think it could be said that your senses may not always be reliable, but your mind isn't always reliable either. So there's somewhere in between saying, look, the senses can't be trusted. They're only out for a quick bite to eat. They just want Twinkies. You can't trust them. the material world is a place that, it's not good. And if you follow your senses, you'll fall into a well and you'll never get out. And okay, like, we get it. So, but isn't it also true that, like, I think of the poem. So I'm going to read you guys a poem. This is called Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. It says, "You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things." One of my favorite poems of all time. I'm sure many of you have heard it before. But our bodies and this earth are also an expression of the intelligence of the divine. And it's very easy to forget that, because we can struggle with the senses and come to distrust them, because sometimes the impulses get the best of us. There's something that's called impulse control. There is, learning to not be overly trusting in aspects of our mind or our body that can lead us astray. But let's not go too far here. The body and the world are also, especially in the Christian tradition, the sort of mystical Christian tradition that forms a part of my background, there's a reason, even if you don't believe in the story literally, theologically, when God comes into human form, and one of the philosophical words to denote this is called kenosis. It means like emptying oneself. Like there's, this world is also divine. Inherently, it is divine. It's not, well, only if you meditate, then it can be divine. No, it is divine. And so that doesn't, it means inherently that there is a way to experience the body and the world and the senses that is absolutely and perfectly beautiful and to be trusted. So that's part of Venus, Uranus, and Taurus, in my humble opinion. 9 is about, greed and get rich quick schemes, like Bernie Madoff style. Like, he had a ton of planets in Taurus, including Venus and Taurus. When you think about like Venus, Uranus, you think of like, oh, how can I get something that I want really quickly and defiantly and break rules? And so be careful of like seductive, get rich quick schemes. Number 10, on the other hand, this energy can be about, hey, I have an idea that would be attractive, that might provide a new stream of revenue. It could be useful, a good offering, right? So innovative business ideas that are, not about greed, but are about, innovation and something that might be a truly useful product for someone that people are attracted to or desire, something that's good or useful. So that's the other side of the coin there. All right, well, that's what I've got for today. That is our exploration of Venus and Uranus. I hope you guys have found this useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share your comments. By the way, if you end up getting grabbed by this transit, use the hashtag grabbed in the comment section. Tell us your story, or email grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. Collecting stories as always. Try to do like an episode a month or something like that, catching up with what you guys have been through. Ancient name for the planets was grahas, grabbers. One of the ancient names. Grabbed@nightlightastrology.com is the email address. Don't forget, you have just 2 more days to sign up for the new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. You have today, Friday, tomorrow, Saturday, where you can use that early bird payment. So make sure you use that. There's still some need-based tuition options too, if that would be helpful. Any questions whatsoever about any of it, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and I can't wait to start studying with a new group of students. I will see you guys in class soon. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.